The pregnancy test sat on our bathroom counter, innocuous and life-changing all at once. Not my wife's test, Sarah's. My wife's best friend. The woman I'd helped conceive a child with 3 months ago, in what was supposed to be a clean, clinical arrangement that would leave our lives unchanged. I stared at the 2 pink lines, my stomach knotting as I heard Eliza's footsteps approaching down the hall. "James, are you almost done in there? I need to get ready for work." I quickly swept the test into my pocket and flushed the toilet for show. When I opened the door, my wife stood there in her pajamas, hair tousled from sleep, looking more beautiful than she had any right to. The weight of my secret pressed against my leg where the test sat hidden. "All yours," I managed, kissing her forehead as I passed. She smiled, completely unaware that her world was about to implode. It wasn't supposed to be like this. When Sarah had asked me, I'd said no. Any sane man would have. But nothing about the past year had been sane. 6 months earlier, Sarah had come to our house for dinner, as she did most Friday nights. She'd been Eliza's best friend since college, practically family to us for the 8 years of our marriage. That night, after too much wine and Eliza excusing herself to take a work call, Sarah had leaned across our kitchen island, her eyes intense. "I need to ask you something crazy," she'd said. "Something I've been thinking about for months." I'd laughed, expecting a joke. "Go for it. I want a baby." "That's great, but not exactly crazy." I refilled my glass, confused by her intensity. "I want you to be the father." The wine sloshed over the rim as my hand jerked. "What?" "Sarah, that's... Just hear me out." She reached for a napkin, dabbing at the spilled wine. "I'm 38, James. I've frozen my eggs, but time's running out. I've dated every decent guy in Boston, and I'm done waiting for Mr. Right. There are sperm banks," I said carefully. "Adoption. I don't want a stranger's child." Her voice dropped. "I want someone I know, someone with genes I can trust, someone who's kind and smart, and..." She gestured vaguely at me. "You." I laughed uncomfortably. "Sarah, I'm married. To your best friend." "I know. That's why I'm asking both of you." She took a deep breath. "No legal obligations. I'd raise the child myself. You could be as involved or uninvolved as you both wanted. You want me to donate sperm?" I clarified, relieved. Her expression shifted. "Not exactly." That's when I realized what she was actually asking. I nearly choked. "You can't be serious. Artificial insemination has a lower success rate, especially at my age. And the clinical procedures are expensive and can take multiple attempts. So you're asking me to sleep with you." I stated it plainly, needing her to hear how absurd it sounded. Sarah flinched at my bluntness, but nodded. "Just until it works? Clinically, efficiently. Like a medical procedure with better odds." "This is insane." I stood up, pacing our kitchen. "Eliza would never." "Never what?" My wife appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, eyebrow raised. The silence that fell over our kitchen was deafening. Eliza hadn't thrown Sarah out. She hadn't thrown me out either. Instead, she'd sat down, asked questions, her face unreadable. Sarah explained her desperation, her medical consultations, the ticking clock of her fertility. Eliza listened with the same attentive expression she used with difficult clients at her therapy practice. "Let me think about it," she'd finally said. I'd stared at her, stunned that she was considering it at all. Later that night, after Sarah had left, I confronted her. "You can't possibly be okay with this." Eliza sat on our bed, legs crossed. "I'm not saying yes. I'm saying I understand where she's coming from." She asked if I would get her pregnant. Not donate sperm. Actually have sex with her. I heard. "And that doesn't bother you?" Eliza looked up at me, her eyes tired. "Of course it bothers me. But it's Sarah. She's been more family to me than my actual family. She held me together after my mother died. She was there for us when we lost the baby. The mention of our miscarriage 3 years ago hung heavy in the air. We tried again for a year afterward with no success, before the fertility specialist had gently suggested we consider other options. We've been on a wait list for adoption ever since. "This isn't the same thing," I said quietly. "I know," she sighed. "But I also know what it's like to want a child so badly it physically hurts. To feel like your body is betraying you. To watch everyone else get what you can't have. So you're saying yes?" I'm saying I need to think. She looked up at me. What do you want, James? I want nothing to do with this insane request, I said immediately. But that night, I barely slept. I thought about Sarah, who had been there for every crisis in our marriage, who had practically lived on our couch after Eliza's miscarriage, making sure we ate, picking up prescriptions, fielding calls from well-meaning relatives, who had never asked us for anything until now. I thought about Eliza, who desperately wanted to be a mother, but might never have the chance, who knew better than anyone what Sarah was going through. And I thought about myself, about the complicated tangle of loyalty and debt and friendship that bound us all together. For weeks, we didn't discuss it. Sarah didn't bring it up again, though I caught her watching me sometimes when she came over, a mixture of hope and embarrassment in her eyes. Eliza and I circled each other carefully, both afraid to reopen the conversation. Then came the call that changed everything. The adoption agency informed us that the birth mother we'd been matched with had changed her mind. She was keeping her baby. Our hopes, cautiously nurtured for months, collapsed overnight. Eliza didn't cry. She went eerily quiet, nodding through the social worker's apologies, thanking her for calling personally. When she hung up, she stood in our living room, perfectly still. We can stay on the list, I said, trying to sound hopeful. There will be other matches. I can't do this anymore. Her voice was flat. The hoping. The false starts. I can't. I held her that night as she finally broke down, her body shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than mere grief. In the morning, she called Sarah. 3 days later, we sat in our living room, the three of us, discussing the mechanics of what Sarah had proposed. Rules, boundaries, emotions, the clinical details of ovulation and timing. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. Just to be absolutely clear, I said, interrupting their discussion of logistics. You're both okay with this? Sarah looked nervous but determined. Eliza met my eyes steadily. If you are, my wife said. I wasn't, but I loved Eliza more than my own comfort. And I cared for Sarah, who deserved a chance at motherhood as much as anyone. And perhaps, buried beneath layers of rationalization, there was something else, something I wasn't proud of. A curiosity, a forbidden thrill at the taboo being sanctioned. Okay, I said, and felt something shift irreversibly in our lives. The first time was exactly as awkward as you'd imagine. A Thursday evening when Eliza had a late client. Sarah's apartment, sterile with preparation. The forced casualness of our conversation beforehand. The clinical way she announced she was ovulating, like reading a weather report. I won't describe the act itself. It was mechanical, uncomfortable, over quickly. We barely looked at each other. Afterward, she thanked me, and I left feeling hollow and strange. When I got home, I showered for nearly an hour. How was it? Eliza asked when I came to bed, her voice carefully neutral. Weird. Awful. I couldn't lie to her. Let's not talk about it. She nodded, but I felt her watching me in the darkness, searching for signs of something I was afraid to name. The second time was no better, nor the third. Each encounter left me feeling increasingly disconnected from myself, playing a role I never wanted in a drama I couldn't believe I'd agreed to. Then came the fourth time. Something shifted. Maybe it was the wine Sarah suggested to take the edge off. Maybe it was the way the afternoon light hit her apartment, softening everything. Maybe it was simple human weakness. Whatever it was, I found myself noticing things I'd forced myself not to see before. The softness of her laugh, the curve of her neck, the way she bit her lip when nervous, a gesture so different from Eliza's habits it felt like discovering a new language. We really talked about her fears of single motherhood, about my complicated feelings toward the arrangement. When a moment came, it wasn't clinical anymore. It wasn't love, nothing close, but it was human, warm, almost tender. I drove home in a panic, disgusted with myself. This wasn't supposed to happen. The whole point was that it meant nothing, that it was a favor between friends, a clinical arrangement. The moment it became something else, even for a moment, everything changed. I avoided Sarah after that, made excuses when she said she was ovulating again, claimed work stress, a cold, anything to buy time while I sorted through my confusion. Eliza noticed, of course. Did something happen? No, elite. I'm just not sure this is working for me anymore. She studied me with the careful scrutiny of someone who deciphers people's unspoken thoughts for a living. Sarah thinks she might be pregnant. My heart stopped. What? She took a test yesterday. It was negative, but she says it might be too early to tell. Relief and disappointment battled within me, both equally unwelcome. I see. One more try? Eliza asked, her voice small. The timing is right this week. I agreed, hating myself for my weakness, for the seed of anticipation that bloomed despite my best efforts to kill it. That fifth encounter changed everything. Sarah was different, softer, more vulnerable. She confessed her growing attachment to me, not as a husband or even a lover, but as her child's father. A connection she hadn't anticipated. I know the rules, she said. I know this isn't supposed to mean anything. But if it worked, if I'm pregnant, you're not just a donor to me. You're my child's father. I should have left then. Should have ended the whole arrangement. Instead, I stayed. Let her take my hand, place it on her still flat stomach, imagining the possibility growing within. What if it could be more? She whispered. What if we've been missing something all along? I like to say I resisted, that I reminded her of Eliza, of our friendship, of all the promises we'd made. But in that moment, caught in the intimacy of possibility, I faltered. And in that faltering, we crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Afterward, the guilt was immediate and crushing. I drove aimlessly for hours, unable to face Eliza, unable to process what I'd done. Not just the physical act, we'd been sanctioned to do that, but the emotional betrayal, the momentary consideration of a different life. When I finally came home, Eliza was waiting up. One look at my face, and she knew. Something's changed, she said. Not a question. I couldn't speak, couldn't find words to contain the magnitude of my betrayal. But Eliza, with her therapist's intuition, filled in the silence. You have feelings for her. No, I said quickly. It's not that simple, isn't it? Her voice was calm, terrifyingly so. We had one rule, James. One, that it wouldn't mean anything. It doesn't, I insisted, but the lie tasted bitter. I saw how you looked at her last weekend at dinner. I'm not blind. She stood up, pacing our living room. God, I'm such an idiot. I practically delivered my husband and my best friend to each other. Eliza, please. Did you think about leaving me? Even for a second. Her eyes, when they met mine, were clear and demanding. I couldn't lie to her. Not again. Yes, just for a moment. The admission hung between us like a physical thing. Get out, she said quietly. I need space to think. I spent that night in a hotel, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision that had led me to this point. The next morning, Sarah called. She'd taken another test. Positive. That brings me back to today. To the pregnancy test burning a hole in my pocket as my wife moves around our kitchen, making coffee, oblivious to the bomb I'm about to drop. Eliza, I say, my voice strained. We need to talk. She turns, coffee mug in hand, and something in my expression makes her set it down carefully. It worked, didn't it? She asks. Sarah's pregnant. I nod, pulling out the test I found in our bathroom trash. She came by this morning when you were in the shower. Left this. Eliza stares at it. She told you before me? No. She told you first, apparently. She just wanted me to know, too. I see. Eliza sits down heavily. So now what? That depends on you, I say carefully. On whether you can forgive me. For sleeping with my best friend? I told you to do that. For wanting more than I was supposed to. For thinking, even for a second, about a different life. She's quiet for a long moment. Do you love her? No, I say, and it's the truth. I was confused, caught up in the intimacy of it all. What I felt wasn't love, it was ego, maybe. Forbidden fruit. The fantasy of escape from our reality, which is so terrible you need to escape it. Her voice catches. Our reality is that we've been trying to start a family for years. That we've been hurt over and over. That we're both scared we'll never have what we want. I reach for her hand across the table. I don't want to escape you, Eliza. I never have. But you thought about it. Thoughts aren't actions. I'm here, choosing you. I always will. She withdraws her hand. Sarah wants you in the baby's life. She told me. My heart sinks. What did you say? I said that was between you and her. Eliza stands up, moving to the window. I won't be the villain who keeps a child from their father. But I also won't pretend this hasn't changed everything. What do you want, Eliza? Just tell me. She turns, her eyes wet but determined. I want what I've always wanted. A family. But I also want a husband who doesn't look at other women and wonder, what if? I can be that man, I say desperately. I made a mistake. One moment of weakness in an impossible situation. Can you, though? She looks at me sadly. Because Sarah will always be there now. And so will this child. Your child. Every birthday, every milestone. Our lives will be forever intertwined in ways we never planned. She's right, and we both know it. Whatever happens next, nothing will ever be the same. I love you, I say, because it's the only truth I'm certain of anymore. Eliza nods, wiping away a tear. I love you too. That's what makes this so hard. We sit in silence, the weight of all our choices pressing down on us. Outside, rain begins to fall, a gentle patter against the windows that feels like nature's commentary on our situation. We should have said no, I whisper. Maybe, Eliza concedes. But then Sarah wouldn't have this baby. And despite everything, I can't wish for that. Her compassion, even now, leaves me in awe. This woman who has every right to hate both me and Sarah, finding room for grace. So, where do we go from here? I ask. Eliza takes a deep breath. I don't know yet, but I know we can't decide today. We need time, all of us. As if summoned by her words, there's a knock at the door. We both know who it is without checking. Are you ready for this? I ask. Eliza squares her shoulders, a sad smile touching her lips. No, but when has that ever stopped us? Together, we move to answer the door, to face Sarah and the future we've all created. Whatever comes next, we'll face it as we've faced everything else, one day at a time, stumbling forward without a map, hoping that love, in all its complicated forms, will somehow be enough. The weight of promises, those kept and those broken, follows us like shadows as we open the door to the rest of our lives.